Good. You know what? I'm going to call it Welcome to the Richard and Karl, or Karl and Richard if you're a more traditionist bibliophobe, presents Deep Space and Dragons Direct. I am Richard, second in logical sorting of this title.
And I am Karl, second in actual sorting of this title. And I mean, probably also second in terms of screen time, because I just talk way less than my verbose host.
You know, I both simultaneously feel complimented and attacked, but I really hope someone runs an algorithm and you learn that you do in fact talk more, you just say less.
Less content in the things that I say.
It's like, yeah, it turns out Richard talks 80% faster, so you actually have more screen time than him.
Well, I mean, what's new with you, Richard?
So, with reading... Well, first up, Valentine's Day, me and my beloved sweetheart decide that we're adults, and we said it's next week, because we don't want to have it this week, we're busy.
Ooh.
So, I spent this weekend procrastinating on projects in what I call quantum unproductibility. It's when you take your schedule and you set a time slot to do a task, and then you don't let yourself do anything fun or give you joy in that task. So you're like, okay, I can't play the new Pokemon game because I need to work on this visual novel. So you're like, okay, I guess I'll just quickly check my phone and check my Discord. And I guess I might also have Vampire Survivor running in the background. And then I realize I've still spent a day. But instead of catching up on my Pokedex and building my fantastic Numon team, not to be mistaken with a Numamon team, I have now twiddled my day away being unproductive, but I forced myself to have less joy during it, so I guess it's all good. What's new with you?
Well, okay, I have an ex-girlfriend who decided that she would rather deliver papers than doing a more traditional jogoing
I mean, if you've ever seen the anime Read or Die, delivering papers can be awesome, but please continue.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, like, at the time, I felt some resentment towards her because she wasn't willing to work a regular job, and I was working long hours. And then after work, she would fairly frequently need my help to be able to deliver these papers on time because she had taken on more papers than she could physically deliver on her own.
I must comment that this is most definitely a plot of a Futurama episode, but please continue.
The point of what I'm getting at, though, is that although I felt resentment at the time, I actually really, really did enjoy delivering papers. So I actually decided to pick up a paper route, and I'm going to start delivering papers around town.
That is amazing. It's like, I resent that you're making me do this. I mean, I don't resent the work. The work is great. But I resent you for making me do this.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, you know, relationships are supposed to be an equal partnership, and it just really felt like she wasn't pulling her weight. I mean, maybe there were just things that she was doing for me that I didn't notice. I'm, you know, you're a little bit biased towards my own side of the story, but the whole point is that what's new with me is I signed up for a paper route.
That is fantastic. And with that, let's get it. I don't have a smooth segue. We're talking Nintendo Direct. And we're talking the most recent Nintendo Direct when we recorded this. So if another Nintendo Direct happens between now and then, look at this as a full-on history piece of what we thought about these video games at that time, and then reflect on how truly right or wrong we were. Kind of like how we self-actualized a new SD Gundam game announcement, and we self-actualized Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer? Maybe. Who knows what we can create by just willing it into existence in this episode.
Yeah, we do seem to have a habit of writing the future.
So let's start off with the thing, and with me blatantly on air asking Karl for a financial favor. What are your thoughts on the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pack?
Okay, so I personally think it is awesome. I believe they're releasing them over the course of a year or two.
Yes, so it looks like what they're doing is for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, everyone's like when they drop Mario Kart 8, because I was watching the live chat during this direct while simultaneously attending a class. I live a balanced life. they basically said, okay, we're remastering old tracks, we're releasing them as a season pass, or they're free if you buy the Nintendo Premium Plus Ultra Hyper Mega Edition with Nintendo 64.
Yeah, so I don't really care so much about that. I'm just going to buy the season pass because as of yet, I don't see enough good nostalgia in the expansion pack for me to think that it's worth it.
But what's interesting is if you put it on the expansion pack, I also get the tracks.
Well, I suppose that might be true.
So I kind of want to look into the logistics here, because if it costs you the same, but we also get a free Nintendo 64, and I also get the tracks, I might be able to come up with some kind of compromise here, because of course you're on my family plan. We're family, right, Nintendo? Okay, good. So yeah, I love when an older game that people are like, I forgot this existed, gets any love at all. Because Mario Kart 8... is a game you're just superior to me at, empirically. Like, it's not even a contest. I can't just crush your dreams. I can't just pilot one mobile suit and take on your army. I actually lose, which both is fascinating, but is still, by far, the best Mario Kart game. Come at me, Internet.
A few weeks ago, IGN ran a story saying that Mario Kart 9 is in active development. And I personally suspect that they're releasing these 48 tracks as a stopgap to build the hype for when they release when they announce the actual release of Mario Kart 9. And I'm perfectly okay with that because Mario Kart 8,
is a past generation game for one thing.
Well, yeah, it's a past generation game, and also they did the DLC for the Wii U version, and then they just kind of released it with the Switch version, and it's just been stagnant ever since. Not that I don't enjoy the game; it's one of my favorite games I've ever owned. But I really haven't understood why they haven't released any more DLC prior to this. And like I said, I suspect it's like a hype train for the new Mario Kart 9 when they actually do announce that it's being released.
And to directly follow up on that, so they gave us another Kirby information. And here's a couple things we learned about Kirby. First, there's a Waddle Dee town that as you rescue Waddle Dees builds up and adds more Waddle Dee features. Like knowing what Waddle Dee fishing and Waddle Dee bowling. And they have a weapon upgrade system, Karl. Your Sword Kirby, if you go out and fight with Sword Kirby and rescue enough Waddle Dees, they can upgrade it to a chainsaw! What?
that does sound pretty amazing. I haven't watched the latest Nintendo Direct myself. They did kind of hint at the Waddle Dee town in some of the previous trailers.
But I was not expecting upgradable hat powers.
But upgradable powers, that is definitely something that, they've done power combinations, but...
And it gets better, because I'm just going to spoil things I enjoyed about the Nintendo Direct live on air with you here. So they also added in what they call mouthful mode Kirby, which you suck something in that doesn't fit, so he's just kind of his Kirby stretched around the thing.
Yes, they do have the thumbnail of him being sucked up around a car.
So obviously I want that in the new Mario Kart. 100%. Straight up. And I'm like,
Yeah, did they announce any DLC characters for Mario Kart, or was it just the tracks?
Just the tracks, but what's interesting is if you show support for something like this, it could lead to more.
That's true.
All right, moving on to the next item. So, I am a firm believer that I really enjoyed Fire Emblem Three Houses. It was my favorite game on the Switch. I plan to do a solo stream / with people in the chat of Fire Emblem Three Houses, because a good friend of mine loves the characters, loves the story, follows it relentlessly on Reddit, but is not good at turn-based strategy games. And they're like, can you just beat this for me? I'm like, I would love to let you make all the decisions as I beat it for you on stream. Tell me when and where. I got the capture card. I am down for this. So I beat that game 7 times. Because...
Yeah, you had mentioned there's a lot of really cool nuance with the different characters. If you get different characters to fight each other, or if you get different characters to hook up, then they each add their own support conversations and different dynamics to the ending. Man,
they even faked me out with the DLC in this one. So my first play through this game, I was playing as you pick one of your 3 classrooms, and then the story is basically you're on one side in the war as the other 2 sides play out. I was bummed at the end that I wasn't able to marry Claude, who was very clearly the most eligible person. He brought me to the dance. But when the DLC came out and there's a new character, Yuri, I'm like, nah. I'm like, wait, you're actually going to let me marry a man with a ring in a Fire Emblem game? Good on you, Nintendo. Way to be. So, like, 90% of that game is me being like, okay, not only do I romance sim who I want to be with while fighting incredibly intense turn-based strategy, my favorite genre, but also I get to micromanage everyone else's love life. And it's just like the amount of sheer little nuance. So here's where the most disappointed I've ever been in a Nintendo Direct comes. I hear the swelling music. I know this music. I hear it when I close my eyes at night. New Fire Emblem Three Houses stuff. Oh, you're showing the character models and the characters. Okay, I'm on board. I'm excited. Fire Emblem Warriors. No! Not a Warriors game! No! For the uninitiated, the Warriors franchise. Oh, I'll let you talk about the Warriors franchise if you have thoughts.
Well, I mean, I haven't actually really played them very much, but I've definitely seen them played, and they definitely are very button mashy, hack 'em slash 'em. Like, there's not a lot of nuance to the combat. It doesn't look like it. I mean, there's a lot of interesting story and interesting a lot of the dating sim dynamics that play out in Fire Emblem Three Houses carry over quite nicely to the Dynasty Warriors games.
If they actually do it, though. Because I've played most of the Dynasty Warriors franchise over my life. My dad was into it when it came out. My dad has been dead for a decade. The games have not improved since my dad lived. So the first Dynasty Warriors for like PS2 was like, oh, you're one dude fighting an army of 100, it's 2-player co-op, you're collecting weapons. This is pretty cool. And they're like, how about Samurai Warriors? Okay. How about Dynasty Warriors Empires, where there's also a turn-based strategy between the fights? I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then they just made everything get some Warriors, and they just reskin the same like basic 10 fighting styles. Like,
well, I mean, Hyrule Warriors is apparently the recombination of all the Zelda timelines, so that one might actually be worth checking out.
The thing is, I actually had that game. And what was interesting about that game is the going around hacking and slashing was meh, but they gave you a NES-era overworld map, and each square on the overworld map was a battle, and as you fought through them, you explored more of the map, and they had one map per Zelda game. Like, there was a Majora's Mask map you had to beat in 72 moves, or it reset on you. But the problem with those games is friendship. So, back when I would play video games in my basement with my friend Redacted, we would bring home a case of sodas, we'd start playing the game, we'd chat, we'd be merry, have fun times. These games are only good if you're actually playing the split screen with a friend. They require friendship and maybe casual drinking. But as a standalone...
Right, because it's really... The Dynasty Warrior games are really just mash the button, go to the objective, mash the button some more.
Like, when we played Gundam Breaker, for example, the only salient difference between Gundam Breaker and Dynasty Warriors Gundam is Gundam Breaker had them drop parts and you could paint your unit.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is a pretty salient difference.
The more serious players in our group really hated the downtime of customizing units as opposed to going out and mashing buttons.
Well, to be fair, my favorite video game is usually the character creator. Like, oh man, did I make some cool virtual Gundam model kits in Gundam Breaker? But moving along this Nintendo Direct, the idea is this new Fire Emblem Warriors will follow the mysterious fourth timeline where all three timelines team up together. And I would have loved that as Fire Emblem DLC, because they never gave you an ending where you got all three house leaders on the same team. So I might have to buy this stupid Warriors game, and that fills me with spite. But moving on...
I was just going to segue saying that a game that's not going to fill you with spite would be the SD Gundam game that they announced, because
perfect segue, nailed it.
Action-based RPGs are cool, and SD Gundam is
I was so many kinds of not expecting it. For a Nintendo Direct for the word Gundam to show up in any context, let alone SD Gundam, I'm like, did we do it? Like, which one of our 12 listeners at the time of this recording... Well, our listenership's pretty good, but the odds that someone with enough power to make this happen listening to our podcast would be delightful. And if it is
well,
please send us a message, and we'll keep pitching you ideas to steal, because we are geniuses.
I would say maybe it was someone at Twitch, because Richard had mentioned, I don't know if he ever mentioned it on stream or on air, but when we started playing SD Gundam, they didn't have cover art for the game on Twitch, and they actually had to update the cover art on Twitch because we started streaming in the SD Gundam Gashapon Wars.
We did it. This might be our biggest impact on human society.
So you never know. Maybe one of the big wigs at Nintendo was checking Twitch and like, oh hey, we haven't done an SD Gundam game in North America for a while.
Right? But let's move to the next thing that looks really cool that I'll have to explain a bit to you because I don't think you saw the trailer for this one. The new Mario Strikers game. So
Didn't see the trailer, but it does sound exciting because Mario Strikers was awesome.
So the thing about Mario sports games is I'm always on the fence because, Mario sports game. But here's the 4 features I said about Mario Strikers that had me intrigued. Okay. So first, they're leaning into it, be like, it's full tackle soccer. You use your analog stick to tackle.
Nice.
There's equipment to customize your player's strength, speed, defense, and attack. So you can
customization is great.
So you can put armor on your Yoshi to be a battle Yoshi. You create an online club, and then you play. It goes up to 8 versus 8, local and online.
Okay.
So the idea, I'm like, Mario Strikers. Ooh, Mario Strikers stream where me and Karl use an army of customized Yoshis. Okay, I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah, Mario Strikers. I don't necessarily like all the Mario sports games, but Mario Tennis and Mario Strikers are pretty solid entries into the Mario sports franchises.
Part of why I like the last Mario Strikers so much was because, the potential flaming here. Soccer is one of the more dynamically interesting sports to watch. I know, controversy. People losing their things. I've watched American football. 30% of the runtime of that is them counting how many lines they moved. I've watched baseball. You can take a nap and not have missed any of the action. I've watched golf. Don't watch golf. So, sure, all these things are a little more fun to play, but Mario Strikers is also kind of fun to watch, which just kind of puts it a bit above. And to directly follow Mario Strikers, they're releasing Nintendo Switch Sports, which is Wii Sports on the Switch. Thoughts?
So, having not watched the trailer, I don't know what's included, but the Wii Sports Resort, first things first, fond memories. I went to visit Richard when he lived in Calgary, and saw it on the shelf at the EB Games or wherever we happened to be.
Pause. Just to make sure you don't say this, and I want to put this on the air to make our viewers super sus. You cannot tell the license plate story on air. You may resume.
So, anyways, mysterious license plate stories aside, Wii Sports Resort was new at the time, and I purchased it, and it came with the Wii Motion Plus, and we went to Richard's place and played it for several hours because it had a whole bunch of really fun mini games. My favorite being the table tennis. So if the new Wii Sports game has the table tennis in any capacity, it will probably get
good use.
A year of my life of just straight playtime. I'll just be
so what
I
they're
love
doing for
that
this
game.
one is they're giving a certain number of base games, and then with their Nintendo Plus membership, they're adding future games onto it. So it's starting with soccer, tennis, badminton, bowling, and with soccer, it comes with a leg strap. And they have volleyball, which looks pretty legit, and they have sword fighting for their starting games.
Yeah, the sword fighting was pretty fun.
3 to play shootout.
In the Wii Sports Resort version, anyways.
So it's not a bad start by any means. I'm not hyped about it by any means, but in the world where by the time you're watching this video, if mankind has survived and we're allowed to be within the same room as each other again, it would probably get a fair amount of use.
I definitely agree. I mean, I didn't really like the Wii U version of the Wii Sports
Yeah, they didn't quite
because it had the because it had those the passes, where it's like, oh, you could have this free pass to try out the game free for a week, but then you have to like pay a subscription fee basically, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So here's the next thing that got announced: a beautiful remaster of Advance Wars 1 and 2.
That's not exactly a new announcement. I think they are just re-announcing it to make sure that people know it's actually coming out.
But my question for you, though, is still thoughts on Advance Wars, because, oh man, did I have some good times with it back once upon a world.
Well, my only thought about Advance Wars in this particular case would be how good is the multiplayer going to be? Because they like redesigned the whole game basically from the ground up. So it looks like beautiful. But like some of the other Advanced Wars titles have had some pretty interesting multiplayer options, and so I'm more excited to see what kinds of multiplayer options they're adding to the original Advanced Wars games.
Oh, I agree completely. Like, because I remember physically passing a Game Boy Advance around a room to play it, which was the most clever solution for letting your game actually have functional fog of war.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see how the rebuilt, reimagined Advance Wars plays. And to pivot on to the next thing on the list, have you seen anything on Project Triangle Strategy, the dumbest named thing from Square Enix?
I have. Again, I don't think that's a new announcement for the Nintendo Direct.
But it was at the Nintendo Direct, so it's worth chatting about.
It didn't really catch my interest. I don't know, the HD 8-bit graphics is a neat art style, but I don't really know exactly what it's going to add to the table besides the retro aesthetic.
Well, it's kind of like, so, did you ever play through Octopath Traveler?
No.
So Octopath Traveler I played through, but the big caveat is I paid $1 to play it on the Xbox Game Pass service. And for $1, it was a great $1 investment. I went through all 8 characters arcs. I enjoyed the 2.5D, where they basically put like really good lighting engine on pixel art, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I just don't think I can give them $80 for them to just remake Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't think I have that in me. Final Fantasy Tactics, especially, I really enjoyed the Game Boy Advance Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't actually think Project Triangle Strategy is going to be better than Final Fantasy Tactics for Game Boy Advance, and that doesn't mean it's a bad game. I'm just, for the last couple of years, been a proprietor of, oi, Nintendo, check your privilege and make it a tiered pricing system, so you can stop saying that every game's as good as Breath of the Wild. Like, if you're to tell me, like, okay, Link's Awakening is as good as Breath of the Wild, I'm like, did you just sell me a reskinned Game Boy game for the same price as a game that redefined open world RPGs? Maybe, like, put them on a different tier.
Yeah, the Link's Awakening, I didn't actually end up purchasing it for that exact reason, and that is it didn't add enough new content to the original Game Boy game for me to justify the reskinned purchase. Like, it looks amazing. I really do enjoy the art style, but like,
it's a Game Boy game.
Yeah, the Game Boy games are known for being shorter than the full console games. So, like, I don't know. I'd hope they would add more like bonus dungeons or something.
Right? And to like directly follow up on that with the new Pokemon Legends Arceus, which wasn't mentioned at the Nintendo Direct, but I've recently been enjoying. If you compare it 1-to-1 to a full $80 release like The Witcher 3, which is a relatively old game right now, or like even Skyrim, new games have a hard time when they're compared to some of these fantastic, I'm Assassin's Creed, but I'm also a pirate simulator, but also I have infinite planets games. It's weird for you to have the arrogance to say it's the same value. Like the Pokemon Diamond Pearl remakes being charged a full $80 is insane. Because they're a DS game that you could buy used for $20 that have been updated to be playable by modern standards. And arguably in some ways, you can make a pretty good argument that some of these graphic updates aren't actually improvements. Like the Pokemon Diamond Pearl did not have good attack animations, did not have really good overworld sprites. So it's like you used a different engine to put it on a new system, and I'm not actually certain you improved it so much as went a different direction. I will, however, say that Pokemon Arceus does feel like an $80 game. They completely tried something new with this one, and I'm super invested in it.
Just as a to pivot back to the overworld sprite for like the Diamond and Pearl, for X and Y, they like drastically improved your character customization and the character design, and I don't know why they didn't just put that engine onto the Switch.
And to even follow up on that one, like Pokemon Sword and Shield had some customization, but it felt like there was less of it. Pokemon Arceus has kind of bounced back along. Like, there's a decent chunk of outfits, and I've straight up made my character into Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. Like, they have like the green check marks. It looks kind of great. But what's cool about Pokemon Arceus is they have a lot of these things instead of arbitrarily locked. They're questline bounded. Like, for example, to get more outfits, I had to find different patterns Hippopotams so they could like look at the class color differences for their own upgrades. Or I had to catch a Scyther for the hairstylist. But pivoting away from that Pokemon game. So the next big thing they announced was Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And it's so weird that I've never played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2. So I have no thoughts on a game that is completely on my vector for games you think I would care about.
Well, okay, wasn't there like a Xenoblade spin-off for the
Yeah,
for
the one
Wii
for the
U?
Wii U was called Xenoblade Chronicles X, which took place in a different setting with different characters, older characters, and was one of the pinnacles of gaming technology that nothing I played actually has impressed me more. That was put on the jankiest system, and it was held together by duct tape and drywall screws. Like, they had you put in a disc and then download a full-size game, and then it would fill your entire Wii U to maybe work. It's like... So I was going through, a friend of mine, E.C. Myers, does retro gaming streams, and he was going through a translated visual novel on the NES. Apparently, this visual novel took HAL Studios 4 years to make. And it bankrupted the studio before Nintendo bought them. It is a 1 megabyte, I believe it was a 1 megabyte Nintendo game, which made it the largest one ever put on the console.
Wow.
And it has like branching text options and good pixel animations and terrible anime tropes because it was a 90s anime game from 1991. But it was really fascinating to watch him go through the stream. Check him out, by the way, on Twitch, or just a free shout out. I like the guy. It's such a chill stream. When someone's like, oh, I really liked how this worked, this was cool, that's a good energy to have in your life. Is when someone's trying to look at what was impressive about old games rather than be like, yeah, this is old. But my shout out aside, and how this comes into the Xenoblade Chronicles game, is I would love Xenoblade Chronicle X on the Switch, but I think they tried so hard to make it work on the Wii U, it just simply might not function right now, and they're still trying to figure out how to make it work.
That's quite possible. In any event, that is the only Xenoblade game that you and I have played.
That's another thing, is they like showed it off as being multiplayer, and that almost did a disturbance because the single player was so good and the multiplayer just didn't.
Okay, before you go ahead there, Richard, are you talking about Xenoblade Chronicles X or Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
Xenoblade Chronicles X, because I know nothing about Xenoblade 1, 2, or 3.
yeah, okay. I mean,
so I'm just going to plug Xenoblade Chronicle X instead because it was amazing. It was the first time a game had no fall damage and then explained it to me. I'm still in shock from that plot twist, which I'm not going to spoil on air. Like, I should stream that at some point, except you can't because it's a weird Wii U conglomeration science monstrosity.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you could get a Wii U specifically to play it, but that sounds like an expensive endeavor.
I mean, I feel like I have a Wii U and I just have to find it.
I gave my Wii U to my brother and his wife for Christmas one year.
That feels correct. So, a couple more things to hit on the Nintendo Direct. First, did you ever get around to trying No Man's Sky? It's on the Switch now. I don't know why you would play it on the Switch. Play it on the PC.
I never did try No Man's Sky, but that was definitely one of the announcements that intrigued me the most.
So, I actually played a fair amount of No Man's Sky with my brother, And my problem with No Man's Sky is it's like, imagine Minecraft, right? But the scale is an entire universe. What do you do? And my problem was the scope of the game was so big that even though me and my brother were playing simultaneous multiplayer, we couldn't find a singular goal to like latch onto to play together. Like he's like, I'm doing missions, collecting credits in space to upgrade my battleship. I'm like, I'm on a planet building a base, I guess, maybe. But the scope of that game is so infinite that I don't have the infinity to enjoy it.
Because No Man's Sky, that is the one where they just have
it is a technological
generated...
marvel. You can literally... The fact that it functions where you can fly around a planet into space to another planet with no loading screens and, like, it's all just there is truly the most technologically impressive video game I've ever seen. But because it's procedurally generated, you kind of have to, like, self-actuate your way through it.
Right.
And things that have, like, building function... Like, you can literally, like... In theory, in this game, you could take your... I'm just going to call it a phaser. And you could actually phaser away an entire planet.
Okay.
You could literally mine the entire planet to dust. But the scope's so big that it's like... What do you even do? The scope was too big. It was a weird problem to have that you made a game that you could spend 7 lifetimes playing. And let's go to a couple more Nintendo Direct items.
Yeah.
So they're doing a remaster of Chrono Cross.
Which is Chrono Cross is basically an interactive novel, isn't it?
Kind of, sort of. Then we have baseball, which neither of us are going to buy a baseball game. They threw Portal on it, which I mean, sure, but like
actually, that was another one that intrigued me because it's like that's an old game and it's kind of interesting that it's bringing some new life, but also
the problem with Portal being ported to this is like Portal is awesome. Portal is still awesome. I'm not going to pay for the privilege to play Portal on my Switch. I'm pretty sure I can find it for $1 in a Steam sale if I'm patient. And then we have Live Alive, which is another one of those HD 2D games that studio's been doing. And we have a remake of... what is it? Front Mission, which is a turn-based robot RPG for the Super Nintendo.
Interesting aside, Front Mission 2 was a side-scrolling action RPG, I guess. And that is the only Front Mission game I've actually played. I really, really enjoyed it. But then I heard about the other Front Mission games being tactical grid-based RPGs, and I was like, oh, well, that's not what I thought Front Mission was.
Because, yeah, I also played the side-scrolling one on Super Nintendo. And when I saw this was turn-based, I'm like, this is not the game I thought it was. But also, this is, like, if their price tag's low enough, they'll get me on this. Like, if they say $20, maybe. They say $10, definitely. They say $5 on sale, absolutely. It's all about pricing for me now. Like, I have to... Because it's less about the money and more about the perceived value. If you tell me that your 2.5D bloom lighting Final Fantasy Tactics game is worth $80, I'm going to scoff in your face. Because Fire Emblem Three Houses was $80. And that had... I don't even know. Infinity billion voiced over dialogue hours. Because every character was fully voiced, including when you walk past them in the hallway. You could zoom into every character and see the entire rendered battlefield. There was hundreds of cutscenes, hundreds of dialogues, probably literally thousands of branching story paths, 30 unique, well-fleshed out characters with hopes and dreams that you could have tea with. So when someone's like, oh yeah, we totally made this 2.5D pixels, look how pretty this is. I'm like, cool. Does it have 500 hours of gameplay with no repetition? No. You're not $80. Get down. Know your privilege. No. Tell me you're $40, I'll consider it. Tell me you're $20, I'll agree. Like, let's take Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for example. They're like, okay, this is what we consider a $60 game. It's a Wii U game with all its DLC, plus extra tracks, plus battle mode. And I'm like, yeah, that seems fair. Best Mario Kart...
They did actually they did actually make substantial changes and improvements to the Switch version, which, I mean, at the time, I felt like kind of like I was being ripped off for having paid for the DLC on the Wii U and then just getting it for free on the Switch. But the substantive differences that they've made actually made it a worthwhile investment.
Yeah. And then we look at Smash Bros. For the Switch and like, oh yeah, we put in literally every Smash Bros. Characters. Here's 132 characters, 500 stages, a full arcade mode, a full spirit mode, solo modes for each characters, 8 players, stage creator, and it's like, okay, so when you tell me your fighting game's worth $80, that your character count better be in the 3 digits now. What? You added 12? You have 24 characters? Maybe price yourself appropriately.
Well,
yeah,
well, I was just gonna say, like, this is getting into somewhat of a rant about pricing and stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah,
if,
that's fair. That's fair. My apologies. I'll back down a bit. I may have passionate thoughts about Nintendo charging more money than things are worth, but this is supposed to be a positive podcast, and there's things I am excited about. They're giving me retro remastered robots. They're giving me Gundams. They're giving Karl more Mario tracks to beat me at. The one thing I didn't talk about is Splatoon, because there's co-op and versus for Splatoon, and I think it's a matter of us just not having that 4-person group for it.
Splatoon 2 is one of the only games that I have genuine buyer's remorse for buying on the Switch. That's probably a hot take. I don't know how many of our viewers are really into Splatoon, but Mario Paintball just sounds cool, but in practice, I just didn't like it, and the matchmaking was terrible.
Fair enough. And with that, I think we topped all the things. I mean, Kirby, we've given full episodes of our podcast on Kirby, and we stream Kirby. Mm-hmm. I really don't feel the need to show more excitement for Kirby. I'm just so excited about Kirby. Also, we willed that into existence, for the record. We definitely did an episode on Kirby and then got 3D Kirby.
We can write the future for sure.
All right, so let's end this episode before going into our random question of the week of, what are we willing into existence this week? Karl, what are we willing into existence? What do we want?
Oh, what do we want?
What does Nintendo need to announce next week that will just get our money?
Oh, geez, now you put me on the spot. I don't even know. Because they've announced, like, they've checked off almost all the boxes that I care about.
Got it. Dokapon Kingdom HD remastered for $20 on the Switch with online play. And up to 8 players.
Oh, yeah, that would be an excellent thing to will into existence. A better Mario Party game.
I mean, we did just get the remastered Mario Party and the last Mario Party, so I can hear that.
That's definitely one of those things where I agree with you that the price is probably not right.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm willing into existence a new Dokapon Kingdom, because that is a deep dive.
I mean, I would definitely like to will into existence a Mario Party that actually focuses on that awesome dynamic movement multiplayer mode that half their development time went to traditional Mario Party, half their development time went to the awesome new Mario Party version for Mario Party's Super Mario Party. But I think that the regular Mario Party half was a waste of development, and they should just stick with something new and exciting like the dynamic movement.
I would love Mario Party with just a straight-up map editor.
Ooh, that would be cool too. Which would be pretty easy to do with the dynamic movement, because you just would be able to lay down like tiles and blocks and stuff, and just design cool levels.
All right, I'm looking for our random. Okay, our random question coming in this week. I think one of our viewers is trying to draw blood, because this is a harsh one. What is the most embarrassing moment in your life?
The most embarrassing moment in my life?
Begrudgingly, I'm willing to go first, because I know what it is and it hurts.
Oh, okay.
For me, it would definitely be when I borrowed money off of you to 3D print a custom Legend of Zelda heart-shaped necklace for someone who dumped me.
That is definitely an embarrassing.
There's so many layers
story
to that, particularly the borrowing the money for something I couldn't afford to get custom made for someone that wasn't that into me. There's just some layers of oof.
Well, See, I don't really feel that much embarrassment about, or shame about anything I've ever done.
That's pretty fair.
I
you probably should.
I mean, there's like traditional embarrassing stories, like when the restaurant you go to has weird signs on the bathrooms and you don't know which one's which, and you end up going to the wrong one. That's embarrassing.
I'll take that. I was also going to runner-up for, I was going to just volunteer for you the time you ordered one bubbled tea.
I wasn't embarrassed. I was just mad that you guys didn't tell me what to order.
And with that, all right, Ed. Okay, do we have a dragon question this week? So in
we didn't have a. We missed our dragon question on the last episode that we recorded. I'm not sure where that's going to fit in our timeline.
All right, so our random question
so
this
uncertain.
week's going to be a double dragon question. If you were a character in Double Dragon, who would you be, Billy or Jimmy?
If I was a character in Double Dragon, I would probably be Zit from the Double Dragon Battletoads game.
I am so mad that you said that before me. And with that, thank you everybody for tuning in, and have a smiley day.
Yeah, enjoy your week, and if you're interested in hearing us talk some more live on air, join us for our streams or watch them when they're posted later on YouTube. Right now, we're doing some Kirby streams in anticipation for Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Join in and watch as Karl sets his Wiimote to vertical instead of horizontal and still aces it. Yep. Pro gamer strats. We never died. Nope, we're good at this. Take care and bye.
Bye.